Ladies and gentlemen, I just finished watching Dexter Season 6, and I have way too many thoughts about this season because there was a lot that went on, and this is known throughout the community as one of the worst, if not the worst, seasons of Dexter. And I completely agree with that sentiment. Do I think it's the worst season of TV ever, or actually a bad season in general? No, not necessarily. I don't think it's the worst thing I've ever seen in any which way, shape, or form. It just wasn't the best. It was the worst season of Dexter, at least so far. And full disclosure, before we get any further, I couldn't film right away after watching it. I'm breezing through the show. At this point, I've already seen all but 2 episodes of season 7. So you're going to get 2 videos pretty close to back about this show, season 6 and season 7. So yeah, just a little bit of a spoiler there because a lot of my reactions I've already seen the outcomes of, but I'm going to pretend I didn't for the sake of this video. All my reactions I wrote down kind of as is, so I'm just going to kind of go off of that. And I have to start with the beginning one. I'm going to go completely out of order here. So yeah, major spoilers ahead. We're jumping right into it right now. That ending was insane. It was seriously, when I say it was one of the craziest endings to TV that I've ever seen, ever. It rivals a major scene with a major character in season 6, episode 7 of Better Call Saul. Those of you who know, I'm not going to spoil that for you, but that was this thing that happened with Deb catching Dexter in the act as he had just killed Travis was one of the craziest reveals for me personally. I screamed. I flipped out. I was like, what? I was flipping out. That was insane. And it was a moment that I was waiting for so damn long within this story, because this season just pointed out every single flaw with this show. Every single one of them came out this season, except for the last 30 seconds of the episode, when it was the best moment in Dexter, in my personal opinion. That finale was fucking crazy. It was absolutely insane. It deserves all the praise in the world. Who cares if Scott Buck wrote a shit season? It doesn't matter. That finale just made the entire thing, which apparently is a good thing, because from what I've heard, season 8's finale is terrible. So at least there's that. I'm just finally glad that we got a reveal that we've been waiting for since episode 1. It almost feels like, for those of you who are familiar with Breaking Bad, not going to spoil that, but the entire relationship with Hank, the DEA agent, and Walt, the drug kingpin, and how that eventually has to crash or something. I'm not going to spoil what happens there, obviously, but it was one of those moments that just needed to happen in the story, and the way it happened, yes, sure, you could see it coming. Anyone could just walk in, blah, 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 but absolutely crazy. Executed, in my opinion, both figuratively and literally, puns intended, flawlessly. Absolutely just brilliant. Bravo, Scott Buck, for that one. Seriously. But that was, again, I think the only real positive of the season. I'll go over some of the other pros as well, and it's really only one. It's Brother Sam was a good character. That's literally, I'm not even kidding when it comes to pros. If you see that, that's it. That's my only thought. Brother Sam was a cool character. I liked that we finally had a genuine good friend to Dexter that wasn't evil, didn't have some other ulterior motive, at least from what we've seen. He was just a straightforward dude who happened to be in kind of a reform mode because he found one with God after him doing bad things as well. And it felt like a natural progression for both characters. But that's it. The rest of the season was awful. It was bad. It was a bad season of TV. Again, not the worst season I've ever seen. Nothing terrible, not Fear the Walking Dead level. It was just not good for Dexter. It was a bad season of TV for Dexter, I should say. And that's because immediately after Brother Sam teaches him all these things, when Dexter discovers that the killer was that other guy who works in the shop, he just throws out every single thing that Brother Sam taught him that we spent half of the season, which was a waste of fucking time, building up for. It was really ridiculous. I mean, yes, I liked Brother Sam, but it just didn't do anything for the story. And honestly, at that, Brother Sam's arc, despite me liking him, was boring as shit. Everything here I just thought was really boring, and I thought that's what it came down to. But that's not even a real complaint. Okay, all right, it was boring. Brother Sam was good, but it was boring. The problem, as I mentioned already, is the fact that Dexter just erased everything that this good person taught Dexter, who he really cared for, and he helped him open up about religion and all of that stuff. Could have went somewhere a little bit better than that, but no, we had just a horrible execution of the entire thing because he goes up against his word. Like, oh my God, another quick thing. This isn't really anything crazy, but by the way, totally on a separate note, what happened to Sonia? Why do we now have Angel's sister in that role? Like, what happened there? There was no word of it. I get it. People get recasted, and I don't have a problem with that per se, but it was just like, you really liked Sonia, and then she's just not in it at all. No mention, no nothing. I thought that was very interesting. There's just a lot there. Another thing, like, I'm sorry, I'm going out of order. Before I get to the craziest things that I really didn't like, another thing that I really didn't like, and this may be a hot take, so I'm warning you, this may be really, really hot. I did not like the episode with Brian Moser and with Dexter going to Nebraska to see Jonah again because they thought he killed his whole family. I hated that episode. Brian was so annoying in the episode. All he did was be like, you're going to kill him, do it. What are you waiting for? Do it. It was just so annoying. Dexter shooting a gun out the window was just so out of character for the character. And then the whole reveal that Jonah didn't kill him, but they kind of killed themselves was just so stupid to me. It really was. It was just ridiculous. And it felt like just a way to do some silly fan service because, yeah, we like Rudy. We like Brian Moser, whatever. That's a great character, but like you just brought him back in what I thought was a cheap way. And you brought him back because at the end of that episode prior, we see obviously Brother Sam's entire teachings to Dexter just get thrown out the window and then Brian just appears. But then Brian's eating a sandwich. He's like wearing Nebraska clothes and all that stuff. And I get it. It's like Dexter's imagination and stuff, but it felt weird. This season did a lot with these imaginary people. And that leads me to the worst case of this, the villains of this season, Travis and Geller. And Geller, who apparently was a ghost, who he wasn't a ghost, but that was ridiculous. Not to mention, it was fucking boring. It was just not a good story. Geller pissed me off the whole time. Just the way he was, what they were doing, and all of that, and the way it was portrayed. Like, dude, Dexter saw and interacted with Geller. What are you talking about? He wasn't real. Like, okay, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I thought I saw Dexter interacting with these people. I don't know. But to me, it looked damn well for sure that Dexter saw this person and interacted with him and all of that stuff. But no, just magically Travis is tied up to a freaking harness on the ground and all that stuff. Sure, he could have done it to himself. But there were just so many examples in this season where it was like, this doesn't make sense for it to be a ghost. It doesn't make sense for Travis to be the only one to have this happen. It doesn't make sense when you see things like, okay, they did it a little cleverly, but when Travis's sister, like, I guess kind of noticed that there was someone outside or something like that, and that Travis was talking to them, like, there were just so many examples where it just didn't fit. It didn't make any sense, and frankly, I just couldn't stand either of them. Colin Hanks just did a weird thing with Travis where, I'm not saying he's a bad actor, but it just didn't work. He didn't feel convincing as a character. He was spineless, but then he was supposed to be this like crazy villain who went from a very methodical plan to out of nowhere as soon as Dexter arrived and as soon as like Geller was revealed to be a ghost, then everything just unraveled and he just went full terrorist. It didn't make any sense. It was stupid. It was not fun to watch at all. And sure, the Doomsday killings in the beginning of the season were kind of interesting because it's like, well, what are they really getting at? And that mystery to unravel sure was fine, but it just was, they were just cringe characters. I couldn't stand Geller, and I really couldn't stand Travis either. I think in retrospect, maybe I'll look at it a little differently, and I'm interested to see, now knowing what I know, how it plays on a second viewing, sure, but it was dumb. Oh my God. It was very stupid. I couldn't really, I just didn't like that. And then another thing that felt forced with Quinn and Deb, their ending in general, them two together, it felt very forced. I wasn't a big fan of all of that in general, and him proposing and then all the crazy stuff that went on with that. It wasn't for me. Let's see, what else do I got? I already talked about Brother Sam, Brian Moser, Deb the Lieutenant. Oh, here's one. Totally forgot about this. Deb the Lieutenant. Okay. Honestly, as far as a character arc is concerned, it's the right decision to have Deb eventually become lieutenant. And actually, now knowing what I know, again, I told you I'm going to try to avoid the fact that I know what happens in season 7, having seen it. They needed to have this step. It was a crucial step, especially for what comes the next season. But it just didn't. I know the intent of it was that it isn't supposed to feel right. That was the intent. So from a writing perspective, I think they kind of did a good job with that, because it's fair. It's not supposed to feel exactly natural, but it just really didn't feel natural. It wasn't right, because Deb is such a potty mouth. She's just someone who just works so well on the homicide floor with all of those people, just being herself. She doesn't really fit the character arc of someone who's a lieutenant. So to see her become the lieutenant just felt so forced. It really did. And then the whole other storyline, which with her, with becoming lieutenant, and I forget the guy's name who is LaGuardia's other boss. I forget his name, but that he was like with a hooker who died, and then he didn't do anything about it and had to hide it and cover it up, was just weird and boring. It wasn't fun, and that whole arc just in general wasn't fun. I also couldn't stand what they did with Batista and Quinn this season. I wasn't a fan of seeing Quinn just go down like a bad path. And also, the only funny thing with Quinn was the fact that he ended up like banging some really old lady. That was pretty funny to me. That was like the only funny moment, but I just feel like those characters got sidelined. The fact that LaGuardia and Batista had an off-screen divorce was so stupid. It just like, it feels like they tried to right the wrongs of some of the things they did previously, which weren't even wrong, and just like correct it quickly behind the scenes. Like, why did they have to get divorced? What good did it really serve? Because I love Batista. I think he's a great character, but like he was just so sidelined. And now I feel like he's just a waste of a character, which sucks, because I do really like him still. Like, I don't have a complaint against him, but I feel like what they did there just completely sidelined him as a character. Not to mention, he would have made a way better lieutenant right now than Deb would have. And I think, obviously, like I said, it makes sense for Deb to be the lieutenant. Like, it fits. It's where her natural progression goes as a character in a story. It's just the way they executed it and the way they got to those places to put the pieces on the chessboard, or all of that, to get the pawns into place. It didn't really work. Like it felt forced. It didn't feel natural. And honestly, this season was one of the first seasons where it got tiring. It really did, because every season up until actually season 7 isn't really like this, which by the way, I know I shouldn't be talking about this. I love season 7. It may actually be one of my favorite seasons of Dexter, if not my favorite season of Dexter, which is crazy. But anyway, I don't know. I lost my train of thought. I'm not going to lie. Just the fact that they did everything they did this season, it just didn't really work for me. I didn't think any of it really fit. And that's what I was getting at. It became repetitive. It was the first season of Dexter, for the most part, except season 7, where the show just felt very formulaic to the point where it was boring. Dexter just finds a new group of people, has to keep it from the police, then they're intersecting the whole way. It just feels the same. It didn't feel original. It felt like it was trying to grab at anything they could for fan service, like Brian Moser and all of that stuff, and tried to like do the same thing they've done, and it just wasn't fun. Yeah, it introduced a new element with religion, but that's it. Now, obviously, I saved some of the best for last. This is a big conversation, to the point where I was actually thinking about making a separate video. So like this or comment below if you want to see that. But the entire storyline with Deb going to the psychologist, or whatever you call it, and her revealing to us and being revealed in therapy that she loves Dexter, and on a sexual level. This was an interesting interesting story. And okay, so I have to preface this because this is going to be it's going to be a controversial take no matter how I frame this. I already said this, so if you want to go back and watch for yourselves, it was either in my episode 1 of season 1 review or my season review for Dexter season 1, one or the other. But I said it very clearly that I had this hunch that they were just more than brother and sister. I had this hunch that Deb liked him in some way. Like, I don't think it was ever hidden. I think it was actually relatively obvious. So to me, I wasn't really shocked or like disgusted by this concept of, obviously it's gross, the concept of it. It's weird for sure, but it wasn't like this was uncalled for me. And honestly, I hate doing this, but before I made this video, I checked out other YouTubers' reviews of this season just because it was a very controversial season. And it was interesting for me to hear takes of many different creators saying that they didn't see that coming at all and they thought it was gross, and which it is gross, but they thought it was just such a disgrace to the character and all of that stuff. And yes, it's really weird. There's no way around it. It is really weird. But like, it was extremely obvious. I don't know. I don't know how I was relatively alone, at least on the online community of it. I definitely saw that coming. It was very obvious to me. Deb always had this just like my brother this, my brother that, my brother's going to save me. It's just me and you, Dex. Like, more than like, bro, would your sister ever say that to you? Like, let's be real for a second. If you have a sister, think about your interactions with them. And I know they're not blood. I know that's like it's not a blood sister. Dexter was taken in and all of that stuff. But I don't have these conversations, anything like that with my sister at all. And I don't think I'm alone in that. I think it was just portrayed from the very, very start that this is where it was going to go for Deb's character. Yes, still very weird. Like, it's cringy to watch, no doubt about it, but it wasn't a shock. Yeah, it was obvious to me. I don't know how else to word that. It was still crazy to see. And I like where that kind of ended up. I was going to say just a second ago that I think her name's Jennifer Carpenter, the actress who plays Deb. So I recently learned that Michael C. Hall, who plays Dexter, and Jennifer Carpenter were married in real life. And in season 6, I think Scott Buck had wrote this in essentially as a way for them to have like chemistry on screen and stuff like that. But I mean, the reason I even bring this up to begin with is Jennifer Carpenter. There's like a video of her talking about this and saying, like, defending it in a way because she thought it was obvious too. And like how she likes to have a secret or something with all her characters, whatever. But I agree, like, this was not hidden to me. It wasn't a shock. Grotesque it may be. It wasn't a shock. And it was just, I honestly think it makes for relatively interesting TV because you have this weird dynamic, which makes sometimes crazy shows even crazier in a way that I think feels natural. I could understand why people don't. I could, like, if you didn't see this coming, I could see you thinking this is the worst decision the show ever made. Hands down. I get that. I don't feel that way, though it is weird, if that makes any sense. That's how I feel about the whole thing. Sorry I went off on a rant about that, but that was a big reveal. That was arguably one of the biggest moments of the entire show. So for that to happen was really interesting. And not to give any spoilers for what's to come if you haven't seen it yet or anything like that, but I'm kind of glad they backed off that a little bit in season 7. We get some of it, which is natural because you can't just have that huge plot point and it just go nowhere. But I'm glad they backed off of it and not made it feel super forced, because I think it would have been way worse if they just forced this thing on us. So, I mean, there's good that comes out of it. Yes, extremely controversial, but I actually thought it was, I guess, in a sense, the right take, because it's where it was, to me, inevitably going. But again, that's different for everyone. That's why there's different flavors of ice cream. I don't know. All in all, this is definitely the most controversial season of Dexter, no matter what. Whether it is just the pacing of the show or any of it. This is, in my opinion, the worst season of Dexter. But the ending, the last 30 seconds, made up for it in every which way. It was a fantastic 30 seconds. And that's about it. That's really all that kind of made up for it. I definitely have more thoughts, but this video is 20 minutes long and I've been yapping this entire time, so I don't want to waste your time either. But yeah, I'd love to take it to the comments. There's a lot of controversial things this season, so let's talk about them down there. I would love to hear your takes on this season. And with all that out of the way, thank you again so much for watching this video. You'll be seeing a season 7 review very soon. I'm on episode 10 right now already, so you'll be seeing that very soon. And then we got one more season to go after that, season 8, and we're going to obviously do the spinoffs and things like that. So we're coming close. We're going to have video essays. We're going to have all of it. But with all that out of the way, thanks again so much for watching this video. And until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Peace out.